Okay. Hello. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. Welcome to session number 14 of our Momentum campaign titled Whispers and Fragments. Tonight's session is subtitled Departures. I am very, very happy to be getting back to this campaign. This campaign's always very tragic, but but in a really fun kind of way to watch it unfold. So, and that is in no small part thanks to the five players that you see with me here tonight. So, before we get started, I'm going to touch on just a few things. First of all, if this is the first time that you're tuning in to one of my games, then you should be aware that the language is going to get blue, and the subject matter may very well be mature. If that's the kind of thing that bothers you, then you should look away. Avert thine eyes. But other than that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to my players so that we can get this ball rolling. So, first up, they can do their introductions, say hello, etc., plug what you'd like to plug. Let's go with Alan.
Evening, everyone. My name is Alan, and I run the YouTube channel CFT RPG, and that's where you can find me, as well as on Twitter and all that good stuff. I am playing Haroon, a elven paladin who is on a path of redemption, and well, that is not an easy road to get through. So, but I'm very excited to come back to this campaign and eager to step in the role.
Absolutely, and we are very happy that this is the game where you are kind of coming back to the table, Alan. A huge congratulations on the addition to your family. I know that you guys are still probably in the adjustment phase of that, as happens with babies. But
luckily, I only have one level of exhaustion, so we're good.
Well, you're early yet. But I'm very, very happy that everybody seems to be healthy and getting along well and making the adjustments they need to make, man. All right. Next up, we have Austin.
Hello, I'm Austin, and I'll be playing Bastrad, the angry bonekin monk. Whereas Haroon is on a road to redemption, perhaps I'm on more of a road to perdition. But no Tom Hanks here. As always, absolutely nothing. Oh, no, actually, I do have something to plug. As a Washingtonian, I want to plug washing your hands. As a resident of King County, Washington, I just want to say, everybody, wash your damn hands. Do it for like 30 seconds, like 4 times as long as you think you need to, and cough into your elbow. I think that's all.
It's a very strange concept to me that this is not public knowledge already. I mean, I see, especially older generations who leave the restroom without washing their hands, and I'm like,
constant. Nothing.
I have to touch that door after you. Like, the hell? Yeah. So it should go without saying, but thank you, Austin, for pointing that out. Yeah, wash your hands. Next up, we have Jake.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and I don't wash my hands. I'm just kidding. Of course I wash my hands. I walk into the store and see all the soap missing off the shelves and wonder, why weren't you washing your hands before? But I digress. Yeah, I'm Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. I run a bunch of D&D over on Twitch. And I do a bunch of crafting stuff over on YouTube. And if you tune in on Thursday nights, you'll find this guy hanging out with us in our Dawnbringers campaign. And I'm playing Katya Kybrick, a teenage dwarf that is just endearing to everybody. She does no wrong. She's the sweetest thing, as you're sure to see.
She's everybody's favorite pubescent dwarf. All right. Next up, we have Lloyd.
Hello. I'm Lloyd. I run the YouTube channel You're All DM. I forgot my channel for a second. I was like, what's my deal? What do I do? I have some books on drive-through under Scalp Publishing if you want to look at those. And I play Ingvrad, who is like the mother of the group, always stern and keeping everybody in line.
Excellent. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Jeff. Only one of Jeff, but Jeff.
Singular Jeff for now. I don't know what that means. Yes, I'm Jeff. I also have a YouTube thing at Tabletop Terrors. Me and the Carney brothers run all that stuff over there. So if you want to see some videos about RPGs, you can check us out there. Yeah, I am playing Darian, also on a bit of a redemption path of his own, learning to be a real person after being a scumbag person for so long. Not necessarily going fantastically at the moment with everything, but we'll see where the end point is. Oh yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, momentum is a tough place to find redemption. So maybe that's why all of you kind of congregated together. It seems to be a common thread. But hopefully you find it, at least to some degree. So, unless there are any kinds of questions or anything, then I think we can go ahead and get started. Let's see here. A goodbye is always a difficult thing. When leaving a place to which we have become attached, the hope is to soon return, knowing that the heart and mind will yearn during that passage of time. The desire to bolster and reinforce our positive memories and experiences will lead to feelings of longing deep within our soul. This is truer still when having to say goodbye to a person whom we have grown to love. However much sting that goodbye may bring us, it cannot compare to the wound inflicted by a permanent departure. Our memories become finite, with no promise of future revisitation. And instead, we are left with the painful doubt of just how adequate our final goodbye truly was. Still in the elven city of Arinivat, floating amongst the Ascended Isles, a mere month into the long night, you have fallen back to the small ship that you took to arrive here in the Dreaming City as a refuge, having just fought with Jaz Bosto, the star of the stage of the ONB, now retired. You have discovered that she was in fact the leader of a cult that you came here to discover, a group known as the Throes of Sunset. You have also discovered that they have been involved in dismantling the Lord of Light, the god Belorion, and smuggling him out of his namesake city, which may or may not have led to it crashing to the ground. Their plan, apparently, is to take Belorion's remains into the Down Under, so that the sun will never rise again on this world. You have fallen back to this small ship in the docks, and as you are recuperating from the wounds of your battle, Darian has wandered off on his own. Darian, did you say anything to anyone before you left?
Um, Given the state of everybody, when they sort of disbanded last, the sort of tension and kind of scattering that had happened, I imagine that he probably wouldn't have unless somebody saw him and questioned him.
Okay. So you've made your way kind of up the dock to where a familiar ship rests. It has been outfitted for air travel. And at least at one point, whenever you knew this ship, it was an ocean-going vessel. The Sinner's Sanctuary was a ship that is, like I said, familiar to you. And when you went seeking its captain, you were told that she is in a nearby tavern called the Windward Knickers. You were pointed to where there is, in fact, a very old, tattered-looking set of knickers that are kind of just gently flowing in the breeze, tacked above the door. What would you like to do?
There'll be a moment of hesitation from Darian as he kind of stands and thinks back, wondering if the person that he's looking for will actually even be in there. He's not entirely sure even what he intends to say or do if they are. But after kind of like looking around as if he would be followed for some reason, probably more out of uncertainty than any genuine fear or even alertness, will press open the door to the tavern and walk inside.
There's a throwing knife dart game going on in the corner, but there's no dartboard. It seems like they're aiming for a particular kind of like space where two boards meet or something, and they're just throwing these knives. And like people are like ducking underneath it with their drinks as it's going on, like kind of crouch down a little bit as you run through, and just somebody is just chucking this knife over your head. But they're just plunging into the wall, the huge gouges all across the wall where like it looks like people have been doing this for years.
There's a weird unintentional rhythm that happens in this place where certain noises like the of the knife being thrown and then like tankards being put down and like slid across the bar and like various like women walking in heels and things like that. All of this together makes this weird sort of like janky rhythm to the place, and like everyone seems to move with it unintentionally.
There's in a corner, there's a cluster of about 3 or 4 young dwarves that have arranged themselves so that not everybody can see what they're doing unless you move close. And they have these small clockwork brass ether carriages that have just tiny little drops of ether in them. and they're using the tabletop surface, and they've sort of got their arms there, and they can't race around in circles, but they're racing them against each other from one end of the table to the other, making small bets in small amounts of small denominations of coin. A very pale imitation of the true Aether Carriage races.
In several corners, there's these rather large apparatuses that stand in the middle of these like circled booths that actually they're basically ether hookahs, and you just hear that to go along with that janky sound, that rhythm. You just hear that as people are hitting the hookah, and then you just get this like ether mist that just kind of hangs kind of like in the atmosphere throughout this whole place. So the whole tavern has this kind of like just this ether haze that kind of clouds the entire room.
So, Darian, have you ever been to a Renovat before? Have you ever been inside this place?
He's probably been to this city before, but I don't know that he's been to this particular establishment before. And if he has been here, it's probably been like on very small leaves and on, sketchy things, not necessarily for his own edification.
Okay. So it takes you a little bit of time. Kind of, this place is already crowded. You're kind of looking around, kind of having to stand on your tiptoes here or there to kind of try to actually get a good look at many of the people that are here. But after a while, you feel like you've almost exhausted looking through this main common room. And just as you kind of turn, a blade flies in front of your face and embeds itself in a nearby post that you are beside. And you hear a familiar voice call, "Oh, I missed you." And you turn and you see the woman that you were looking for when you came here. Aelia Claudius, captain of the Sinner's Sanctuary.
Darian will keep his eyes calm as this knife flies by and sticks into the wall next to where he's standing. But there's some part of him that can't help but show the underlying tiny hint of being nervous as he'll reach up, pull the knife free, acting much cooler than he feels, and will just turn. Yeah, it's a shame. He almost put me out of my misery finally.
Something I am thinking maybe I should have done a long time ago. You have turned up at a strange time, Darian.
Every time's a strange time. This one's just a different one.
True. You have purpose draped about you. You have come here for some reason. What do you want? I do not think this is merely a social visit, no?
Yeah, Darian will kind of look almost confused by the question, and will just kind of shake his head. Strangely, or maybe not so strangely, I'm not actually sure why I am here. I saw your ship, recognized it, decided to pop in for a visit, see what you've been up to.
Well, you know me. Always up to no good. But I get paid well for it.
You certainly did have your unique ways of getting things done.
Come now, but we did get them done, no? Sit, please. Have a drink. I'll even buy.
Always the generous one, he'll say.
How soon you
But then,
forget.
move toward. He'll move to sit down. So what brings you to the strange land of the elves? Seems, like you say, in such strange times, a specific place to be. I'm sure it's no different than myself.
She orders a drink. Probably whatever you used to drink whenever you knew her before. And when you ask your question, she kind of leans back and puts her feet up on the table, crossing her boots at the ankles. Well, we just happened to be near where Renevat was whenever the long night set in, so it's a good enough place to spend the night. Turns out it was very lucrative as well.
A lot of work to be done during the night.
You, though, you have come here for what? The ether? You do not seem as if... She kind of gestures to you. You do not seem as if you are using.
I quit,
You could.
actually.
Very good.
You stand long enough at the edge of a cliff, sometimes you start to get dizzy. It's better to step away.
You have found philosophy too, no?
Common sense, more. At least the beginnings of it, I like to believe.
There should be more of that goes around, I think.
Something like that.
Your drink arrives, and it's set down before you. She raises her glass towards you. A toast?
Yeah, he'll grab his glass as well and lift it up.
To those that form us into what we become.
Indeed.
She clinks glasses with you and then takes hers. Well, I have been informed that it is not too long before we are setting sail. Are you looking for employment?
I have some right now, as a matter of fact. I'll say, just as like surprised as she probably would be.
Too bad. It pays
But
well.
you know me. The highest bidder is a mighty thing. So if it pays better than what I'm getting, I'll just kind of nod like, if you're willing to share details, I'll hear you out, basically.
She kind of plays coy for a moment, being silent, kind of like tracing the tip of her finger kind of around the rim of her glass. It is certainly a very rare opportunity. There's a lot of money, a lot of ether.
More concerned about the former than the latter.
Yes, but there's good money to be made.
Doing what?
Transporting some people. We are headed out very soon. We don't typically like to travel when it is dark, but with what they are paying, it is more than worth the compensation.
How long's the trip?
It is long. They have chartered me to go all the way to the dwarven city of Tolmunimir.
Dwarven City. I'll kind of like say, feigning surprise.
Yes.
What good citizen of Arinavat would want to go to a Dwarven City during the long night?
Well, as we established earlier, I am not a good citizen. And again, it's not really my business. What they want to do there is their own. As long as they pay me, I could care less. I will get them as close as I can on the Sinner Sanctuary. And then we will sail the rest of the way on the water.
And you need a full crew for this? Expecting trouble?
I get the feeling that there may be trouble that is invited with this particular crew we are taking on. I feel there's something left unsaid between us, Darian. Maybe we did not leave on the best terms with one another.
Things were complicated then. I guess they still are, just differently. So,
no hard feelings still, I hope, no?
no, I've turned over a bit of a new leaf, in a sense.
I suppose so. You are sober. You have found a conscience and common sense, as you have said. Maybe you are too good for my crew now.
I don't know about conscience. That one still remains to be seen. The other two, definitely. And yeah, I probably am too good for your crew, I'll say, half joking.
I see. Now the truth comes out. Well, it was lovely catching up with you, Darian. I am sad that you have decided to not go with us, but I understand.
Maybe the winds of chance, he'll kind of like gesture out towards the docks as he says that, will bring us back together again soon. You never know.
Perhaps. Let us hope it's a meeting much like this one, with pleasantries and good rum.
I guess we'll have to see when it happens.
She kind of studies you for a second with a sideways glance. And then she downs the rest of her drink and starts to stand and gather her effects. Well, I must be going. It is about time to push off.
I shouldn't stick around too long myself.
Take care of yourself, okay?
You too.
She kind of leans in and gives you 2 small pecks, kind of one on each cheek, something that she's kind of always done. And then she kind of holds you at arm length for just a moment, studying you again for just the briefest of moments, and then turns and moves to leave.
Darian will do likewise, kind of giving her the once over as well, trying to gauge how much that she's been able to catch on, of kind of the whole situation just from talking. And then seeing her go to move, Darian will also go to leave, I imagine, heading back pretty quickly. Guessing that their cargo is probably one that we might have interest in. And he would like to get back to the others before their ship leaves.
You're kind of running hastily back through the dock areas, and before you get to the ship, you hear the tinging of bells start to sound in the city. Cathedrals all across Arenavat eventually start joining into this kind of chorus of bells that are ringing all together, and you can sense a sort of kind of like palpable energy around the people who are milling about here at the docks. There's definitely kind of something going on, and nobody seems to really know what it is just yet. But you manage to find your way back to your ship and board once again. Find the 4 companions of yours waiting for you. While Darian was gone, what are the other 4 of you kind of up to?
Bastrad would be just in the cargo hold, trying to kind of organize any of the stuff that Katya pointed out that we might need for our trips. Just kind of separating out into kind of bundles for each of us, so that we all have whatever it is we need, and organizing the cargo hold. Just using the time to kind of try to prepare.
Katya is keeping an eye on, first of all, where Ingvarad is, and second of all, where Darian is when he arrives. And aside from helping with the prep, identifying the essential gear, and mostly talking to Bastrad for that, anytime Ingvarad or Darian comes anywhere near, Katya deliberately moves in an opposite fashion in the room, trying to keep as much space between them, keeping her back turned to them. For all intents and purposes, pouting.
You do know that's not going to fix anything, right, Katya? Ignoring them. I know you don't want to hear this, but it doesn't help.
If I have to, I can ignore you too.
Well, I'd prefer if you didn't. So I guess I'll shut up.
I think Ingrid would have tried like once or twice to talk to Katya, and then having dealt with this nonsense, this teenage nonsense, would have stopped and is going to wait until she's ready to talk. I think she would have tried once or twice and had like Katya turn her back on her and just been like, nope, not doing it, can't do it.
I imagine like at one point Ingrid may walk in, and after that little conversation, Bastrad just kind of looks up, makes eye contact, does that little like just Ingrid just right back around.
As Darian kind of approaches in, he'll just kind of like shout to whoever will listen. I think I have a hunch of where the Throes of Sunset are. Going to be leaving soon on a ship. captained by an old friend of mine. At least I think so.
Well, then we should set off now if we know where they're going. I trust your judgment, Darian. You made good calls in the past, so if you think this is where it's going to be, we should be there first.
They're going to the same place that we were already looking at, Dwarven City. Think they're going to try to move ahead. If they've hired her crew too. She's scrappy, like I am, resourceful. Crew of runaways, orphans, troublemakers, people like me. We should be careful, but if we can beat them to it or find a way to get in their way, could help us.
And do we know how to navigate to this dwarven city? Especially in the dark.
Darian will just look at Katja.
From the air, no.
Any landmarks that you might know of on the way?
The edge of the world.
Ilya mentioned flying and then landing to sail the rest of the way. I presume your path would be a similar one? Or do you have another way?
I don't imagine that Katja has any particular knowledge of how to get back, though she won't directly say that. Just sort of reiterating the fact that from the air, I've never flown before.
Most of you who have traveled to the Edge Horizon would know that airships can't sail all the way because of the amount of turbulence that happens there from where the ether kind of meets the edge of the world and actually kind of rolls back into the atmosphere effectively. So it causes too much air interference, and airships have to land, if they can, still sail on the water and approach by sea.
And I think Katja, then in that case, I think Katja would at least have the knowledge of the effects. And in fact, I think she would sort of get a little like puffed up and maybe forget that she's angry at you guys because she knows something that you don't know. Kind of describing what Jeremy has said, talking about that. And that is why we don't ever see airships flying into the area. That is why I'd never had opportunity to fly.
Is it possible to make this ship sea worthy? I think the word is. And he'll just look to Darian. I've never sailed before in the air or the sea. You know much more about any.
Is this ship water ready, Jeremy? Or would we need to do something first?
This ship is not currently seaworthy, but you know that it could be made so. It's a conversion, that is done pretty frequently. A lot of humans tend to acquire things, and that doesn't exclude elven airships. And many times they're repurposed for both ocean going as well as air travel. But there's only a couple of places where this kind of work is typically done. And you know of such a place that is more or less on the way to Tol Munimir. And it is it's referred to in many of your circles as the Betrayer. was something that you and I had talked about before.
Indeed. Yeah, Darian will kind of like, I imagine, check out a couple different sections of the ship that he has to be a certain way, and then like see that it's not, and he'll just kind of shake his head. Unfortunately not, but fortunately, I know a guy. We'll have to get it modified to make sure that it can sail and fly at the same time, but if we can get there, then I can get it ready and get the rest of the way there. Some of you might not enjoy the locale there, though, just as a heads up.
And let us say that we get there first. What is the plan at that point? Just to be there first does not. It doesn't secure us anything. I'm not even quite sure it gives us much of an advantage.
I mean, if we see any of the Throes of Sunset, we kill them there. And hopefully before they go and do whatever it is that they're trying to do. Stop them from going down under, and maybe we stop them from destroying everything that's still left. Katya, the down under, when dwarves go over, is there one spot? Is it one particular place? Are there many places in a city? How does that work? I don't know how
There would be
I never saw
key.
that part.
There would be specific locations where the most frequent traffic takes place for the mining operations. Technically, you could go over in just about any spot, but these are the areas that are known to be the least dangerous, the most accessible, and there will be more than one. There are a few of them.
I know a little about this journey, how we get there, so I'll trust that you will figure it out between you.
How easy is it for non-dwarves to even get in to a place like that? Can you just bring us in, or will it be trouble?
To the down under?
Yes.
There is a word that we use that is describes that very act. It is called impossible, or very nearly so. So this one this is not going to be something that will be easy.
I think we're well past looking for easy at this point.
I mean, there's our best bet maybe to find one of the lesser used older chimneys, but that's going to be more dangerous. But the main approaches are pretty much out, especially for so many non-dwarves.
They're going to be taking their crew in, which I imagine they might. And they'll probably have similar problems and have to use similar entrances, especially if they're hauling god bones with them.
Did your friend at the bar say anything about going to the down under? Do you think she and her crew will be there too?
She mentioned that the people that they were going with seemed to invite potential danger. I wouldn't be surprised if they're ready to take action. Without being on the crew, there's only so much that she could and would tell me.
Bastrad thinks for just a brief moment about saying that he should just go undercover on the crew then, but then realizes how massively dangerous that would be and very stupid, and thinks better.
Imagine at this point, those of you who are even below decks on your ship can hear the ringing of the bells coming from the city. They don't seem to have let up since Darian got back.
What is that? He'll start going, like, heading above deck to see what's, like, if there's anything obvious going on outside.
When you
Carnage
reach,
hounds.
yeah, sorry. When you reach the upper deck, you can see that there are people kind of starting to gather together at a place where many of the avenues here at the docks kind of form. It's a square by name, but certainly not by shape. And it looks like they're all gathering around a single person, and this person is gesticulating wildly and seems to be very, very animated or agitated. And all these people seem to be listening to what this person has to say with rapt attention. Austin, you're muted.
Whoops. Master will poke his head down and let everybody know what he just saw. I think I might go see what he's saying. This might be important. Bastrad will just head off that direction.
Yeah, Ingvrad's concerned that this is the Throes of the Sun making some public statement, and we'll follow.
Room will do the same.
Darian will briefly go to objective, like, didn't we just talk about how important it is that we go fast and now, and then see that everyone, like, is already out of the room, basically. And rather than scream it at them from below deck, we'll kind of follow behind at least to see what's happening.
Katya stays obstinately by the railing for about 30 seconds and then, hell, and takes off after Darian.
So the group of you, with Katya somewhat trailing behind, head kind of into this square. And as you begin approaching the backs of where this crowd is kind of gathering together and starting to knot up on each other, you can hear the person from the middle saying, "Dead. Murdered. Assassinated. Right here in Irinavat." Can you believe it? The guard... How could the guard have missed this? This will surely bring trouble. It will not bode well for us as citizens of Irinavat. Somebody shouts, "We didn't even know he was here!" conversation
Bastard
continues
will-
like this.
Bastard will tap someone like in the back of the crowd, and just roughly say, "Did you hear what happened? What's going on?"
This human man kind of turns towards you, kind of eyes you for a second, almost like he's surprised to see a bonekin standing there whenever he turns around to see who poked him on the shoulder. The sovereign oracle of Belorion, some fancy to do elf. He's apparently been killed.
They'll just kind of grunt, "Thank you," and turn back to everyone.
You know, they actually said that there was some bunkin involved. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? He kind of like elbows one of the guys next to him.
Not the slightest. Thanks. And turn and start walking away from the group, but slowly, not suspiciously or running or anything.
They're following you at least with their eyes at this point.
So if I can tell that, then I am not going to head directly back to the boat. I'm gonna just take a left down an alley or down like a side road or something. Just try to kind of avoid their gaze for a while, and then speed up a bit, trying to get out of their line of sight.
The rest of you, whenever you see Bostrod kind of speaking to one of these people, and then abruptly kind of leaves and starts to go a direction that doesn't make much sense to any of you. Is there anything that any of you would like to do or say?
Ingvad will take the hint. This is not like him. He usually would come to us and say something, so he's going to hide somewhere, which is what it looks like. She will do the same, like walk in a different direction, and maybe like crouch down a little bit, pull her hood up, and if I'm with anyone, sort of say to them as well, we should split up and head back to the ship.
Yeah, Darian will do similarly. I imagine hearing that, just kind of moving off as if to go, see what a different part of the crowd is saying, and using that kind of as cover to sort of as inconspicuously as our group can try to disperse and head back.
So, whenever you kind of part ways, Darian, and are eavesdropping on other parts of the conversation that are happening in the crowd, you hear much the same information. It seems like the Sovereign Oracle of Belorion, who you knew was here in the city after Belorion, his city, crashed, that he has been assassinated. And from the sound of it, although the descriptions may be a little exaggerated, they seem to be looking for your party. Okay, so as you're kind of splitting up to make your way back to the ship by different routes, what does this breakup look like? Who's with who? Who's alone? What is the arrangement?
It's probably hardest for me and Bastrad to get back, so I think I'll try and go alone, unless somebody wants to definitely come with me, because the others will make it back easier. And I'll take a more direct route than the others, I think, to get there as quickly as I can.
Yeah, and I'm certainly alone since I kind of walked off first.
Okay. Into the three.
Having come down... Oh, did we lose Jeff?
Jeff disappeared.
I was going to say, if he's using stealth at all, I might not be able to see him.
On cue.
having sort of come last, I imagine about the time I kind of move in to see what's going on, I'm looking around and I see Ingvarad and Bastarad heading off in one direction, and kind of everybody's just splitting and going in different ways, and I'm just standing there. What the? And I'm gonna try to see if I can figure out where everybody is. If I would even necessarily, I imagine Ingvarad and Bastarad are probably the only two I can for sure spot and know where they're going.
Yeah, each one of them stands probably at least a head taller than the majority of the crowd, and with their broad shoulders
I stand ahead or more below the crowd.
right, exactly. But yeah, they're pretty easy to pick out if you know what you're looking for. Are you going? Is the intent to follow one of them? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, ultimately, though at quite a distance, because by the time I really spotted that they were going somewhere, I'm not probably going to be right on their heels, but I'll try to keep an eye on where they're going and follow them.
What were you saying, Alan?
I was just gonna see if I could, since being I'm an elf, I'm probably the least suspicious looking person among our group. Is there any other details that specifically call out our group other than Bonekin may be involved?
Yeah, it seems to be that they're discussing a group that has 2 Bonekin, a human, and a dwarf with them.
Okay.
You have not heard a mention of you, specifically. And though you may be the one who sticks out the least, you are emblazoned with the symbols of the Kalendari, which in and of itself can be pretty identifiable.
Is there anything that's that's pointing towards our ship, or that where we may be, that kind of thing, or
no, not that you have heard. Just that the Irinivat Guard are out looking for you. It hasn't even really been directly said that they are that they're trying to say you murdered the assassin, but that is certainly the mood of the crowd.
Okay.
All right. And Haroon, who did you end up going with? Or are you going on your own?
I would probably pair with Darian or Katya, unless they're just off on their own.
Okay. So everybody, if you would please, roll me stealth checks. Those of you who are alone, you can have advantage.
Sorry, I cut there for a second. Am I alone?
I guess this determines on who Haroon went with, because he mentioned both me and Darian.
True. If you were
we didn't know.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say we didn't know if Darian was going off on his own or not.
Would you have gone off on your own, Darian?
If the call was to split up, that probably would have been his instinct. But if somebody specifically stopped him and asked, then it might be up in the air.
Okay. I would say with that kind of being Darian's gut call, we can just go with that you were on your own. Okay. So Ingvarad has managed to make it back to the ship undetected. Darian certainly did. Ooh. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
The very second I get to the ship, I will begin the preparations to take off. So whatever is needed.
Okay.
Starting the engine, pulling up the anchor or whatever, I'll be doing
Right.
all of that.
Okay.
Likewise.
Yeah, it probably takes Ingvarad having the help of Darien, honestly, to figure out most of it.
Yeah, she has no idea. She's just like moving things and like, like putting coal into things and just hoping that it
What
works.
does this lever do?
Yep.
So Bastrad, as soon as he was around the corner, would say his prayer and cast Pass Without Trace on himself.
Good deal. Okay.
And it'll be a 19 after that, fortunately.
Okay. And then Katya and Haroon will also be with you, as it turns out. So that gives him, what, a +10? If I'm remembering right?
Yeah, +10.
Cool.
So as soon as he sees him, it'll be on all of them.
Oh, good. That turns that to a 12.
It's a little better. All right, let's see. Okay. So, Katya, you are catching up with Bastrad, and Haroon, you managed to basically pass Katya in the crowd before you kind of look down and realize that she's just a few people away from you, kind of cutting the same line towards Bastrad. And the two of you kind of, merge together and continue after him. And just about that time, as you kind of refocus towards Bastrad, you realize that the two men that he was talking to in the crowd are now doing more than following him with just their eyes. They are making their way through the crowd after Bastrad, and they're somewhat in between you and he.
So these two men stand between us and Bastrad?
Yeah, they're not so much standing, they are chasing, essentially, Bastrad. They're making their way through the crowd after him.
All right. I will approach these two men. And I'll call out to them and, excuse me.
They both kind of turn around, and you can see that kind of look of, like almost like a kid with their hand in a cookie jar. It's, you represent an order of lawkeepers who function in elven lands, and these two humans look as if they've just been called on the carpet. They both turn. Hello there. How are you?
I am well, but
You're a captain.
I am. And I can't help but notice that you have, taken a certain interest in particular suspect, if you will. But for your safety, I will have to ask that you refrain from following him. My men are well aware and are keeping a close eye. I'm going to go ahead and use my Emissary of Peace, which will give me a +5 bonus to Charisma Persuasion, and
Excellent.
basically attempt to convince them that this is well underhand and they don't need to interfere.
Okay, perfect. You can have advantage because, again, you're a symbol of elven authority in an elven city, so...
All right. That will be 25.
Okay. Yeah, they both kind of... Oh, absolutely. You're the right man for the job. Happen to be a reward for leading to the capture of one of these known criminals?
Of course. And I'll just reach into money pouch. I mean, we've got coin to spare, so I toss them a couple of coins. Now, this is a very sensitive matter, so please don't say anything. We don't want to cause a mass panic.
Oh, right. You kind of like wink, elbow. Sure thing. We'll just be on about our business then.
Good day, gentlemen.
And they'll kind of look after Bastrad, kind of a little bit, kind of down at the coins in their hands. They kind of shrug and they turn and they head off away from him in the crowd.
Look back at Gotcha. Well, now that that's taken care of, let's get back to the ship.
As you look back at me, I'm just sheathing a partially unsheathed scimitar that the edges of shadow are dissipating from where I just formed it. Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. That was better than what I was thinking.
Oh, gotcha. Clearly, if we are suspects in an assassination causing...
We're what? This is the first she's heard of this. And then all of a sudden, just like, why are we here? We should get back to the ship.
You're right, we should. Let's make haste.
Perfect. So, with that small delay, the rest of your group finally makes their way back to your ship, and preparations have been made to set sail. And whenever you are ready, you may leave the city of Arenavat behind you.
I imagine, like, as the last person is literally like finishing their step up the gangplank, Darian is like getting the ship moving. He doesn't want to be there literally a single second longer than we need to be.
Okay. You head back out into the long night. Sailing during the long night is oftentimes not a particularly safe thing to do. There are a lot of wild things in the remote parts of Momentum on a good day. And during the night, there are some truly terrifying things that tend to make their way out and push closer to civilization than they would normally. But sometimes necessity dictates that you take risk. With that in your minds, you have turned the ship away from the dreaming city and leave its gleaming lights and enchantment magics behind you. I think this is actually where we're going to go ahead and take a break. So, 5-10 minutes, smoke them if you got them, refill your drinks, go to the bathroom, kiss your spouse, etc., etc. And we will be right back. If you are tuning in this evening, thank you so much for watching. And if you're turning in the future, thank you for that as well. Sit tight, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our break. If you are watching, thank you very, very much. This is Momentum. This is session 14 of our Whispers and Fragments campaign, and I am very, very excited to hop into the second half of what we have planned for tonight. So, without further ado, shall we? Okay. The journey away from Arenevat is fairly uneventful at first. After a moment, you realize that you are not being followed, that nobody seems to have paid too much attention to you departing, and everything seems smooth sailing. Katya, where is it that we find all five of you gathered together at some point after this?
Unintentionally, Katya has led everybody to the near the last school that she went to. It was sort of a early years educational facility, just enough to get the basic education. And of course, being a dwarven school, it's very still very focused on mining and delving. But it was sort of that I haven't been here in a really long time, and just sort of went to something that seemed familiar. And also, given that it's the long night and probably the time that we came in, it's also quiet, unoccupied.
As a matter of fact, it's, you might even call it abandoned. It looks like it's been some time since anyone's been here. And you have kind of wandered around looking for signs of anybody, but there doesn't seem to be much left behind at all. And it's when you come back into one of the main rooms, maybe it was the mess hall, that you finally do find someone. Another dwarf. At least, that's what you think at first. This dwarven figure kind of steps out of the shadows, more kind of appearing. And he looks haggard, worn. His shoulders are kind of slumped. His clothes and his hair are all ragged. You can see his cheekbones kind of highlighted in the small amount of light in here. And his beard hangs from his face, almost like moss. Without looking up to meet your gaze, Katya, is that you? Katya.
Do I recognize this voice at all?
It's somewhat different. Sounds more tired, gruffer, older. But you think that this might be Belos Jelinek, the dwarf that didn't return with you. Katya, could you hear me?
Belosh? Belosh,
Yes.
is that you?
Yes, Katya, yes, it's me.
How is this even possible?
I've been so alone for so long. Are you real?
I am certainly real. I'm wondering if you are real.
It's at that moment that you can see the edges of his clothing that are torn, the wisps of his hair and beard seem to kind of float on a non-existent breeze, and the ends of them kind of dissipate, almost like smoke. From certain angles, you're fairly certain that you can see through him. Katya, you seem very far away.
I'm right here, Belosh. I'm right here, and I would reach out and try to touch him. Try to take his hand.
You reach out and you feel a kind of radiant cold coming off of him. But when you touch him, his body seems to be corporal in a sense. You feel as if you're touching and holding on to something, but this is not the normal hand of a dwarf. It's less... It's almost like it's barely tangible. Like if you squeezed too hard or moved too quickly, that it would flow right through your hands.
Belosh, by what power is it that you are here?
Katya, I cannot stay for long. I have found Sergei. He is in grave danger. He needs your help, Katya.
What? Do I know who Sergei is?
Yes, he is your father.
I'm looking through my notes and okay. What? You know, sir?
Yes,
What do you mean?
I have found him, but he needs your help, Katya.
Where is he?
He's here, with me, in the Down Under. Come, Katya. And he kind of like grabs a hold of your hand in return. Come with me, I will show you the way.
Hold on. Without even looking back, I start going with him.
Okay. The rest of you, you have spread out, looking around this place. And you've all kind of started to converge, realizing that it is abandoned. And as you kind of enter this main hall, you all watch as Katya, who is talking to a corner of the room, holding her hand outward as if clasping something, she steps forward into the darkened corner of that room and out of your sight.
Bastard's kind of dad instincts will just kick in And he's just gonna start like sprinting over towards where like stranger danger it was. Just try to get Katya back in sight.
Ingrid will do the same. She'll like run forward with Bastrad to try and grab whatever she can of Katya.
You both approach the corner and find no opening there. No doorway, no trap door. It's as if she disappeared through the stone.
I'll start just trying to like pull at the stone or like just do whatever. Like, what is how is it put together?
It's worked stone. It's worked stone. It's kind of been placed into, brick-ish formation.
Yeah, he'll just start like trying to like kick on it, just and see if like there's any give. Just kind of frantically trying to figure out what the hell just happened, but kind of in a bit of a logicless zone of kicking a wall.
After a moment, the four of you can feel the wind in the room kind of go still. And the shadow of the corner of the room begins to kind of expand along the walls and the ceiling and the floor, growing larger. And as it continues to do so, there's a small pinprick of firelight that appears back in the darkest recesses of this shadow. But it seems to be merely to backlight a mask of darkness that seems to kind of ride these waves of shadowy ribbons. Katya is with me now. The lies you have told her will cease.
Are you the
Give her
darkness?
Give her back.
Yes, I am the darkness, the shadow, the unknown, the fear. And no, I will not give her back. She
Bastrad will lunge
mine.
forward, try to strangle a shadow, I guess.
You leap ahead, Bastarad, and once more you find yourself crashing into this useless corner of stone.
What do you want?
This is not a negotiation, but I am willing to make an exchange. Katya is mine already, but I will wait. If I am given a pure soul. The glowing eyes of this mask turn and direct this last statement directly at you, Ingrid.
what did it say? That Katya's, it's already?
Yes. And that she will wait. It will wait. And that it will wait for, or it is willing for, to make an exchange.
Ingvad will like look to the others. Yes,
No,
I'll go.
You can't be. No, you can't be considering this. That's madness. We'll find this thing. We'll find a way down under without Katya. We'll get there and we will kill whatever this thing is. And it'll spit onto the wall of the into the corner.
Your chances of navigating the down under without one so gifted as my Katya, you will all die.
It's bigger than me or you, Bastard. It's bigger than any of us. It's the end of the world. And without Katya, we can't do anything about it.
Without you, it's going to be the end of the world either way. You have to know that. We can get Katya. There's got to be something. Me. You don't need me. He'll look to the shadow. Like, what do you say? Just any old exchange? You singled her out. Why?
She knows why.
It says that Jerry will like look expectantly at Ingvarad of like, you know why?
She thinks, why? I'm of the gods, sacred, holy, pure, maybe, you might say, if you were generous. Not tainted. It would be a bigger victory, I suppose.
How can we even trust this thing? That if you go, you don't just be swallowed up too, gone.
We can't. I don't have an answer, but I know that if I don't do it, and Katya spends the rest of her life wherever she is going, I'd never forgive myself. She's like a child to me.
Does this exchange free Katya from your bond?
It is only Katya herself who can sever that tie. But I can return Katya's form to you, the way it was when she left a moment ago.
What happens to Ingvarad? Where do you take her? What do you do with her?
She will become mine.
I'm not afraid, Bastard.
He'll get in a little close and just whisper very quietly. Nor should you be. It's that thing that should be afraid. There's no power in this world I know that could turn you away from what you believe in. And I think anything that tries to is doomed. Plus, if any of us ever encounter it, one of us will die. I know you have to do this, and I understand why. I wish you didn't. But give that thing hells.
She'll like grab Bastrad by the horn and like headbutt him, sort of like unusual affection, probably. Darian, stay on the path. You're doing it.
Yeah, Darian will kind of bite his lip uncomfortably. It's clear that this whole situation is not very favorable. He'll just kind of like shake his head. Thank you.
If this is the thing that drives you back to it, I will haunt you.
He'll find some way to laugh in the face of it. Thank you, Ingvarad. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be like this. I'll try.
And then she'll go to Haroon and take his hand. And like doesn't know what to say or how to say anything. And so we'll just sort of like look at him a little bit and then squeeze his hand and stand uncomfortably.
There is nothing you could say, but know that you will come back to us. Here. And he'll, reach under and he pulls this chain and you see there it's your hammer emblem. You gave this to me when we parted ways long ago. Snaps it off, places it in her hand, folds her hand in on it. I expect this back.
I'll hold on to it for you. And then she'll like turn to face the thing. All right. I accept.
In order for the exchange to be valid, the soul must give itself freely. You are under no spell. Do you so choose this fate?
She'll like look up to the sky for a second and like mutter something like a prayer. Yes, I choose it.
Then step forward, Ingvarad. Become mine.
She steps.
All of you watch as Ingvarad walks forward into this dark corner and becomes enveloped by this shadow. Ingvarad, there's a moment where you find yourself almost lost in a dark fog. It's not as acrid as smoke, but it's that kind of thick, blinding, pervasive environment. You get turned around several times and start to realize you have no idea what direction you're heading in, and you just feel on edge. And then you spot a shape in the fog smoke in front of you, making their way towards you, looking almost equally as lost. And after just a brief moment, you realize that it is Katya, and she is making her way towards you. Katya, lost in this same scenario. You spy a familiar figure in front of you, making their way in your direction. Belosh having become lost to you. And you realize that it is Ingvarad.
It's that way.
Ingvarad. I saw Belosh. He said he knew where Papa was.
It's a lie.
But he seemed to know. He said he would take me there, and then everything went to shadows, and I got lost.
The thing, whatever it is that gives you your power, it tricked you and brought you here.
It wouldn't do that.
It did.
But then how are you here?
It took you away from us. And it said that one of us could come get you.
Then it didn't lie. Then you are here to lead me back to everyone else. We can go now. You said it was this way. Let's go. Why aren't you coming, Ingvarad?
I have to stay.
No, you came to get me, to take me back. We can go back. I'm not mad anymore, Ingvarad.
I know. I can't go back. Only you can.
You're not making any sense. You're scaring me. This isn't funny. If this is to get back at me, I said I'm not mad anymore.
I'm not.
I will learn to control it. I will stop doing it. Just come back, Ingvarad. This isn't funny.
I can't go back. But you can. They're waiting for you. And when you go back, you'll lead them where they have to go, and you'll save the world. And you'll be a really big hero, and they'll be really proud of you.
I can't do it. I can't do that.
Of course you can.
I'm just a child. I'm still just a kid.
You are, and it's deeply unfair that you have to do it. It's not fair, but you have to. Nobody else can.
How can I do anything without you there?
Whenever you think Ingvarad would be angry at me for this, they'll still be there.
That's all the time.
Yeah, I'll be with you.
Ingvarad, I'm scared. What if they die because of me? I'm not a hero.
I don't lie to you, ever. And they might die. And you might die. That's always been a possibility. But I'm also not lying to you when I say that you are a hero. And you've done a lot of heroic things already, and you'll continue to do so. Because despite this thing that makes you act like a shit sometimes, you have a good heart.
If I have a good heart, Ingvarad, it is because you have made it that way.
I helped a little, maybe.
Will I ever see you again?
I don't know. I hope so, but I'm not sure. I can't answer. I didn't do this to make you feel bad or to feel guilt. So when you get out there, I don't want you to worry about this. I did this because I wanted to.
Does this mean when I go back that the shadow won't be in me anymore?
It will still be there. It said that you can stop it if you wanted to. But you have to do that yourself. And I'm not going to demand it of you. I didn't do this with conditions. Just be the best you that you can be. And look after the rest of them. They need a bit of comedy every now and then. They're very serious.
Especially Haroon. Oh, and Darian. And actually Bastarat. They're all way too serious.
They will need a laugh after this more than anything else. Don't let Bastrad drink. And if you see Darian with some ether, hit him in the back of the head.
I'll kick him in the nuts.
Good.
I think as she says that and starts to have this sort of smile and wipes some tears, just all of a sudden the tears start flowing and she just wraps her arms around your waist and buries her face in, well, essentially in your stomach.
It'll be okay. I believe that.
I only believe that because you say it to be so, Ingvarad.
They're not going to have someone to look after them the way that I did, so you have to do that. It's a pretty big job.
Well, I will have to take it on. I was raised by a bonkin after all.
If anyone can do it, it's you.
I hope I'll see you again.
I hope so too.
And I hope when that time comes that I will have made you proud.
It doesn't matter what you do. I'll be proud anyway.
And she says something to you in Dwarven that I don't know that you've ever heard her say it. Knowing her past and her estranged relationship with her father. But she says in Dwarven, I love you.
I love you too, kiddo. You'll be all right.
I'm going to go now, because if I don't go now, I don't think I ever will.
Yeah. This is the time.
She takes a deep breath. She turns on her heel and just eyes closed tight, fists clenched, resisting every muscle fiber that's telling her to turn back around. And the only way to not do that is she starts sprinting in the direction that Ingvarad pointed.
You take but a few steps, Katya, before the three of you see Katya charge headfirst out of the corner and collide with you. Probably you, Bastarad.
Yeah, he immediately just wraps her in a hug, just holds her, and looks kind of behind her as if like just hoping that maybe Ingvarad's coming too, just right behind.
The shadow lingers for just a moment before it says, "The exchange is complete." And on the word complete, the mask kind of falls as if something that was holding this structure up was pulled out from under it. It kind of collapses down. The light that was backlighting this creature fades, and the shadows return to normal.
Bastrad will just hold Katya and kind of begin to sob, trying to hold it in and trying not to like make a scene of it, but we'll just hold her and like, I'm glad you're back. Good to see you.
It's for at least a few moments, Katya can't talk. She's just fully succumbed to Bastarad's embrace and is sobbing. After a few moments, I pull away from Bastarad and I look around at everybody. I don't know. I don't know how I can do this. I don't know if I can do this without that shadow that has been a part of me. I realize now that perhaps it's a bit like the ether addiction. Because while I want to let go of it even now, for what Ingvarad did, I don't know if I can let it go completely. but I am going to try. And you would see this sort of just as shadow lifts off as I deliberately drop the armor of shadows that I always wear. Oh, did I cut out there for a minute? Oh, everything froze for a minute. So I deliberately dropped the armor of shadows. And the scimitar packed weapon that was at my side just sort of goes and dissipates. And out of the air, there's just this sort of brief moments of the shadow dissipating, and sort of swirling around maybe a little bit, and I sort of swat at it. I'm going to try, but I would like to ask you all a favor, and I don't know. I know I should not. I'm in no place to ask anyone anything, but in honor of Ingvarad, and from this day forward, please call me Katvrad.
Belorion will take a couple steps towards you. He's trying his best to hide the real emotion that he's feeling right now, which is anger. He's trying not to direct it anywhere in particular, but perhaps it still shows. But despite that, he'll kneel down so that he can look you in the eyes and just nod. Addiction, recovery is a tough road. Words are a lot, but it's just the beginning. And I don't say that to dissuade you. The opposite. I know exactly what it's like to feel that buzz, that high that you get, and to try to let that go, even though you want to. In your heart, you want to throw it away, but your body might yearn for it anyways. But you have one thing that'll help you that I didn't have. Something that's been very important. Friends who can help keep you on track. Who will be here when you feel that temptation. We can help in the same way that you did, the way that Ingvarad did.
She told me that if you touch ether, to kick you in the dick. So I guess you can do the same.
That'll be our way of keeping.
I might be paraphrasing. She did tell me to make you laugh.
That'll be our way of keeping each other honest. If I touch either ether or if you summon shadow demons, a nice swift kick will do the trick.
And I think for a moment, Katya does this thing where she sort of leans towards you, and there's that, that micro move you make, like you're gonna hug somebody, and she just sort of puts her hand out, and just, since you're kneeled down at her level, she just sort of pats you on the shoulder and just gives you a squeeze, knowing that Katya and Darian aren't really at the hugging level, but that seems to be the first sign of real affection she's shown to
Yeah.
her.
I imagine there's that super awkward moment where like normally that would be what you would do, but because they're not there, they just kind of like both stand there awkwardly, not knowing how to like wrap this conversation up. So Jaren will just like do the overly awkward, just like, well, and just like stand up, like not knowing what to do or what to say. And just like disband the conversation in the most awkward manner possible.
You are very brave, child. This much is true. Ingvarad saw it, and I believe you're starting to see it too. I do not possess the crafting ability of the Bonekin, so I will not pretend to be able to mimic Ingvarad's abilities, but the Bonekin are of the earth. And he just pulls a knife from his belt and goes over to the stone in which Ingvarad and you were absorbed into. So that is, let us make you and her part of the earth as well. Cat, and he just begins to scrape into the stone. Farad.
We should go. Darian will say, but he won't move to actually leave. Like the words and his actions will like betray each other as he like knows that they shouldn't stay, but like can't bring himself to be the first one to like walk out.
Bastrad will stare for a long moment at the corner where Katya just emerged and Ingvarad left. And then, without really saying anything in agreement, will turn and start walking towards the exit.
Katya would be the last to leave. Before leaving, just walking over to where Haroon carved the name into the wall and just trace her finger along the name, particularly the Varad part. And then she kisses her fingertips, touches the stone one last time, and turns and walks out.
As we see Katvarad turning to leave, we see several parts of the shadow. These, once again, small, grasping hands that seem to extend the shadow after Katya, almost grasping after her, but not making contact, and retreating back into the body of the shadow as the room is left empty. That's where we're going to stop for tonight. I know it's a very short session, but it was intentional. For those of you who did not know, surprise, this was Lloyd's final session with this campaign. We are all very, very saddened by that fact, but such is life. That is what happens, and hopefully we were able to give Ingvarad a good send-off. Maybe not for the character herself, but at least for where we are in the story. So we don't have to necessarily end things right now. I would like to kind of talk a little bit about Ingvarad leaving and give everybody a chance to kind of say goodbye to Lloyd on the air and whatnot. So I'll just toss the ball to you guys, and we can just hash it out a bit before we call tonight.
I just want to say that was one of the rawest and best interactions I've had in D&D.
Yeah, it's a real punch. Right?
Yeah,
That was
rough. I knew he
honestly
was leaving, but I didn't know how, and that's awful.
And honestly, I've been emotionally attached to characters, but I tend to play a lighter fare, or I run these, intense one shots that everybody knows what you're in for. You're like, oh yeah, I jumped on this, this 4-hour roller coaster, and then when it's done, it's done. And we're all in. But we've been playing this game for so long, and we've had these every session. All of our characters have had these intense emotional interactions, and this is honestly the first time I have ever actually had genuine tears in my eyes from one of my own character interactions with another player and another character. So that this this goes down as one of the most memorable sessions I have ever played of D&D. In no small part to anybody here, obviously, but hugely just the trust that we've all built, and being able to play characters like this, and the interesting dynamic that Lloyd and I set up with our characters from the get-go. So it sucks that you had to leave, but one hell of a way to go, man.
Yeah. Sort of the best way that I think that she could go is like something good, punchy like that, And it feels correct that she would do that, I think,
Yeah, I think it's a really good step for both Ingvarad's character, an end cap for her character, but also a good step in the development of Katya.
Yeah, for sure.
This kind of directly affects her, and it colors so much of what's gone on between your two characters, particularly up to this point. But
yeah, I honestly I can't think of another way that Ingvarad could have left that would push Katya in the right direction. I think a violent end, or possibly several other scenarios I was thinking of, would have pushed her further into the shadow, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. And I didn't want to just find a way to kill Ingvarad off. Like,
right.
That seemed like the obvious choice. But the longer I thought about it, I was just like, no, it needs to be something. It has to be on Ingvarad's terms. Like, that's her character.
Yeah.
It's a very defining part of who she is. So this is what I had hit on, and I was really, really happy that you guys latched on to what was going on so quickly and took it and rolled with it and pushed it in a fantastic direction.
I was so worried, because I'll say this. If Ingvarad and Katya hadn't passed each other, if Katya had just come back and not gotten to say goodbye to Ingvarad, we'd all be effed. Because I think she would have just fully fallen into the shadow. I was thinking about that when it was playing out. I'm like, what the heck is he going to do? I'm looking at what I kept constantly looking at what spells I had and what kind of shadow powers were going to manifest, and it wasn't going to be pretty. So I think that, like I said, I think that was the best case scenario for Katya, and just in such an amazing interaction, such a pure interaction. I think that Katya and Ingvarad had.
Yeah, it was important to me that she brought across that it was like, she didn't do this so that you became good. That's not the condition. The condition wasn't like, I do this and now you have to like stop being a whatever demon worshiper. Like, that wasn't even important. It was just like, I'm doing this to save you regardless,
Yeah, it was kind of a really nice way to like pull back the curtain on the whole sort of like motherly aspect of Ingvarad, of like I'm telling you to be better because I want you to be better, but like the love is not conditional on that. Like that stands on its own, and like that's the part that caused that action. This is, I think, a fantastic display of that.
And the thing is, I think Lloyd might be the only one, and Ingvarad definitely is the only one that would have known the full effect of Ingvarad's role as a matronly figure in Katya's life. But I think already seeing that potentially it's helping to push or to tear down the barriers that Katya had sort of thrown up, along with probably Darian. I think there was the most just animosity between the two of them for no real reason. I think Katya was just a dick to you the whole time. Or almost always the whole time.
He was also usually almost always the one to like call you on bullshit or like blame you for the things that you had done. Of like he specifically referenced you killing us in combat like multiple times throughout the game, and like so imagine this that constant harping of like, you're causing us problems, this is your fault, you're doing all this bad stuff, you know, that gets to you eventually. You can only hear that sort of thing for so long before it's like, F you, like I'm just doing what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
Katya's been a trouble.
It's just like in Darian's mind, it's like this person's like a liability. They're like immature, they're dangerous, and it's like I need to make sure that they stay in check. And it's like but that's not a good place to build a friendship on. So it was definitely a very important moment to sort of try to mend the divide, I think, between them. Of like now they kind of have this common ground of like, we both have to live up to the now, you know, the standard of Ingvarad that'll haunt our memories if we mess up.
Having an angsty teenager be around you all the time is already bad enough, but when they have actual like devil magic,
you know, it's a lot worse, right? It's like a temper tantrum also could mean the summoning of a corpse or something, you know? So.
Well, I mean, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a potential for summoning a greater demon too.
Yeah, I'm really eager to see how this is going to kind of resonate throughout the rest of these characters as they develop, and where we're going to hear these kind of notes play out over the rest of the course of the campaign. I'm very excited for that.
So I think Katya, you'll probably start to see some changes in her personality, and maybe not so much of a hellion. She's still going to be a right prick, I'm sure, being a teenage dwarf, but just not so fiendishly so, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, even like well-intentioned change takes time. You know, you can't just like magically become a different person overnight, even in the face of like difficult, you know, traumatic levels of things. So I'm sure there will still be plenty of growing pains between Darian and Katvarad and the rest of the group. But there's at least some anchoring point now to like want to be better, which is important.
The Katvarad thing was literally in the moment. Just kind of, I was looking at Ingvarad's name, and I'm like, I was looking through my inventory trying to see if there was something I could give Ingvarad, some kind of exchange they could take. And then when she came back in, I was just like, yeah, she's going to take her name.
It's such a good touch, especially for dwarves, you know, who are so about tracing your history and your lineage and whose name you have and all of that kind of stuff. It's a big deal. So that's really cool. I think it's a good touch. Cool. Well, Lloyd, thank you very, very much for agreeing to be a part of this campaign and for bringing so much, warmth, I guess, to Ingvarad. She's just all of these characters have been fantastic. And Ingvarad was absolutely the beating heart of this group. She very much was the mother, and you played that to a T, which was fantastic. And especially, again, playing a cleric, when I am aware of your own personal feelings about that subject matter, and pulling it off without a hitch, and never having it sound condescending or faked, really, even. It was very.
That's like one of the most interesting things for me is playing, because often I'll play like a religious character that's like an inquisitor or like like Warhammer level of like zealot maniac.
Right.
And this Ingvar's just like a normal person who's like quite religious. It's just like nowhere near that. And I was like, okay, I just wanted to see if that's something I can do, and it was a lot of fun, I think, and like really interesting and eye-opening, I think, to do that.
I think it was done in a very respectful manner too.
I agree.
It was expertly done. I mean, I think we've talked about it before at length.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm gonna miss having you in the game very much, Lloyd. But again, life happens, and sometimes opportunities have to change, and I totally understand that. And I hope that this campaign will leave you with a lot of fond memories. And
a big time. I mean, I would much rather be playing this game than going to the job I'm going to start, but
wouldn't we all?
Got to do what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this game has had like some of the most intense, I think, character moments that I've been a part of in a game. Just definitely, it's been really like impactful, I think, and many sessions of this game, like at the end of it, I'm like, oh, I can breathe out, because I haven't in hours. It's been really, really great for that, I think. The interactions and the depth of like the characters is much greater than other games that I've played in, I think. There's something very like deep about this campaign.
Well, thank you. I'm very, very glad that you feel that way, and I'm very appreciative that you brought that kind of depth and realism to playing Ingvarad. So yeah, I do have who is going to be stepping in for Lloyd's place. I already have that player chosen. I've already spoken with them, but I am not going to reveal it tonight. That will be these people will find out in the coming days, and all of you will have to wait until next month's episode. So, yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in this evening. I hope that you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you went through a lot of Kleenex. And yeah, I guess until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.